I wish I could say it was just a bad decision, a simple wrong turn, but the truth is I knew better. I felt it the moment my boot left the worn path, stepping onto the soft, decaying leaves of the forest floor. The air immediately grew heavy, colder than it had any right to be, even with the sun still high above. A strange, suffocating silence fell. Not the peaceful kind, but one that pressed in on my ears, making them strain for any sound. That's when I heard it, a faint, almost imperceptible murmur, like 1,000 hushed voices sharing secrets just beyond my understanding. The woods themselves seemed to breathe around me, and I knew, deep in my gut, that I wasn't alone. I froze, every muscle in my body tensing, my eyes frantically searching the dense undergrowth. The silence, which had been heavy, now felt like a held breath, waiting for something to snap. The murmurs, they weren't just faint anymore. They had grown, rising and falling like a collective sigh, 1,000 dry leaves skittering across the ground, but with an undeniable rhythm, a cadence that was almost, but not quite, human speech. I tried to rationalize it, to tell myself it was just the wind playing tricks, the rustling of unseen animals. But there was no wind. The air was dead still, suffocatingly so. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the oppressive quiet. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, to run, to find the familiar comfort of the trail I had so foolishly abandoned. But my feet felt rooted to the decaying earth, a strange paralysis holding me captive. The shadows beneath the canopy deepened, twisting the trees into grotesque, grasping figures, their branches like skeletal fingers reaching out. Then, through a narrow gap in the gnarled branches ahead, I saw it. Not a whole figure, not yet. Just a flicker, a brief, almost imperceptible movement. A shape, darker than the deepest shadow, seemed to detach itself from the gloom for a split second, then melt back into the impenetrable darkness of the deeper woods. It was too quick to properly register, too fleeting to be certain, but the image seared itself into my mind. My breath hitched in my throat. I squeezed my eyes shut for a second, then snapped them open, my gaze fixed on the spot where I thought I'd seen it. Nothing, just the endless, oppressive trees, their silence now deafening. But the murmurs intensified, swirling around me, no longer just a distant hum, but feeling closer, almost inside my head. They felt like they were trying to tell me something, or warn me, or perhaps lure me deeper into their embrace. A profound, bone-chilling dread seeped into my very core, colder than the frigid air. It wasn't just a physical chill, it was the cold of absolute wrongness, of being at a place where I emphatically did not belong. I took a hesitant step back, then another, my eyes scanning for any familiar landmark. My only thought was to retrace my steps, to find the worn path, but the woods seemed to shift around me, the trees rearranging themselves, making every direction look identical, a labyrinth of bark and shadow. That's when my eyes snagged on something unusual. Etched into the bark of a massive ancient oak beside me, half hidden by a thick layer of moss, were crude, almost tribal symbols. Not initials, not typical trail markers, nothing I'd ever seen before. Jagged lines, unsettling spirals, eyes staring blankly out from the bark, and beneath them, a single, faded, reddish smear. It looked like dried blood. My mind screamed at me to run, to flee, but my body felt heavy, trapped, paralyzed by a terror that was both primal and utterly new. The whispers seemed to coalesce, forming a single, drawn-out sound, like a name being breathed on the wind, just for me. The whispers intensifying, almost a low hum. The sound of my name, or what I thought was my name, sent a jolt of pure ice through my veins. But no, it wasn't my name. It was something else, ancient and guttural, yet soft, like a lover's plea. Ilara, Ilara, it whispered, not from the wind, but from the very air around me, from the moss on the tree, from the dark spaces between the leaves. My own name felt like a distant memory, replaced by this new, terrifying identity that the woods were trying to bestow upon me. The sound was a caress, a threat, a promise, all at once. My eyes were still fixed on the dried blood, on the unsettling symbols that seemed to pulse with a faint inner light now, a trek of the deepening gloom. My mind raced, trying to make sense of the nonsensical. Ilara? Who was Ilara? Why were these woods calling out her name? And why did it feel like they were calling to me? Then the air shifted again, not just colder, but heavy, thick with a scent I couldn't place. Damp earth, decaying leaves, and something else, something metallic and sweet, like old blood. And that's when I saw it again, not a flicker this time, but a slow, deliberate emergence from behind the ancient oak. The shape I'd glimpsed before, now coalescing into something more defined, yet utterly alien. It was tall, impossibly thin, its limbs appearing to bend at unnatural angles. Its skin, if it even had skin, was the color of bruised twilight, and where eyes should have been, there were only deeper, darker hollows that seemed to drink the light. It moved without sound, without disturbing a single leaf, gliding rather than walking, its head tilted as if listening intently to the whispers that now swirled around it, a chorus of hushed voices. It was looking at me. I felt it, a cold, probing sensation that pierced through my terror-induced paralysis. It wasn't just looking, it was seeing me, dissecting me with an unseen gaze. The murmurs intensified, no longer just a hum, but a distinct, multi-layered chorus of pleas and warnings, all centered around that one ancient name, Ilara. And then, one of the skeletal branches of the creature, or perhaps it was just a twisted part of its form, slowly, deliberately pointed towards the symbols on the oak. My heart exploded in my chest. The paralysis shattered, replaced by a surge of pure, unadulterated adrenaline. Every fiber of my being screamed to run. I didn't think, I didn't plan, I just turned and plunged deeper into the woods, away from the ancient oak, away from the impossible figure, away from the name that echoed in my head. My feet stumbled over roots and unseen obstacles. Branches whipped at my face, but I barely registered the pain. All I could hear was the frantic pounding of my own blood in my ears, and beneath it the persistent, rising tide of the whispers, now seeming to follow me, to chase me. The trees became a blur of dark shapes, their grasping branches no longer just imagined, but real, tearing at my clothes, snagging at my hair. I was running blind, fueled only by the primal terror that had consumed me, knowing only that I had to escape, to get away from the thing that had called out that name, that had pointed to the blood, that was surely, silently, relentlessly pursuing me through the dreadful echoes of the whispering woods. I could feel its presence, a cold shadow at my back, urging me deeper into its domain, into the heart of the nightmare. My lungs burned, each ragged breath a desperate gasp for air that felt thin and stale. My legs screamed in protest, but I pushed harder, ignoring the sharp jabs of branches, the treacherous give of the leaf-strewn ground beneath my feet. The woods were no longer just a place. They were a living, breathing entity, and they were closing in. Every tree seemed to lean inward, their skeletal arms reaching, their shadows stretching like grasping claws. The whispers were no longer just chasing me, they were with me, a swirling vortex of sound that threatened to consume my sanity. They spoke in a language I didn't understand, yet their meaning was chillingly clear. You are ours. I stumbled, catching myself on a rough trunk, my hand scraping against the bark. A sharp pain, but I barely registered it. My eyes darted wildly, trying to pierce the gloom, but it was useless.
The deeper I ran, the darker it became, the canopy above swallowing the last vestiges of daylight. I was running blind, my sense of direction completely shattered. The path, my lifeline, felt like a forgotten dream, a cruel joke played by a malicious forest. Each turn I made felt wrong, each step deeper into an inescapable maze.
Then, a new sound cut through the cacophony of whispers and my own frantic breathing, a low, guttural growl, not human, not animal, but something ancient and primal, vibrated through the very ground. It was close, too close. It was the creature, I knew it. It wasn't just pursuing me, it was toying with me, herding me, driving me exactly where it wanted me to go. The air grew impossibly cold again, a frigid breath on the back of my neck that made every hair stand on end. I could feel its presence, a tangible weight behind me, a silent hunter enjoying its prey's desperate dance. The whispers intensified, weaving together, forming a distorted chorus that repeated one word over and over like a broken record. Elara, Elara, Elara. It wasn't a question anymore, or a plea. It was a command, a claim. My blood ran cold. Was I Elara? Was this some twisted destiny I had unwittingly stumbled into? Or was I just a substitute, a new victim for an old, forgotten horror? The thought was more terrifying than the immediate threat. I broke through a thicket of thorns, my clothes tearing, my skin stinging. Ahead, the trees thinned slightly, revealing not an exit, but a small, stagnant clearing. In the center, a single, massive stone stood, unnaturally smooth and dark, almost black, like obsidian. It pulsed with a faint, unholy luminescence that seemed to absorb the little light left in the woods. And around it, arranged in a grotesque circle, were more of those crude symbols, carved not into bark, but directly into the earth itself, glowing with the same eerie light. This wasn't just a place, it was a destination, and I had been led right to it. The whispers reached a crescendo, a triumphant roar that echoed not in my ears, but directly in my soul. The silence that followed was even more terrifying. The silence was a physical blow, deafening after the cacophony, leaving my ears ringing with an unnatural vacuum. My breath hitched, caught in my throat, every nerve ending screaming. The air itself felt thick, suffocating, charged with an ancient, malevolent energy that pressed down on me. My eyes were locked on the obsidian stone, which now throbbed with a sickly internal light, mirroring the glowing symbols etched into the earth around it. They weren't just glowing, they were breathing, expanding and contracting with a slow, deliberate rhythm, like a monstrous heart. Then, from behind the massive stone, it emerged. Not gliding this time, but rising, unfolding. It was taller than I'd imagined, impossibly slender, its limbs stretching and contorting with a horrifying grace. Its skin was not just bruised twilight, but a tapestry of shadow and faint, pulsating veins that seemed to carry the same eerie luminescence as the symbols. Where its eyes should have been, the hollows deepened, becoming twin abysses that swallowed the light, yet somehow I felt their burning intensity focused entirely on me. And its mouth, a jagged, lipless fissure that slowly, impossibly began to open. No growl came, no shriek. Instead, from that gaping maw, a single, perfectly clear whisper escaped. A sound that vibrated not through the air, but through my very bones. Ilara, it breathed, a sound of immense age and infinite patience, a sound that settled into my soul like a parasite. My blood ran cold, turning to ice in my veins. My heart, which had been a frantic drum, now felt like a frozen, immovable stone. The symbols on the ground flared, their light reaching out, tendrils of luminous energy snaking towards my feet. I could feel them, not physically touching me, but drawing me in, pulling at me with an invisible force. I tried to scream, but no sound escaped. My mouth was dry, my throat constricted. My legs, which had carried me through so much terror, were now useless, rooted to the spot. The creature took a step, then another, its movements slow, deliberate, each impossible joint clicking with a faint, dry sound. It was coming for me. Not to kill me, I suddenly understood with a profound, soul-shattering horror, but to claim me, to make me Ilara, to consume me and wear my skin, or my soul, or both. The whispers, which had been silenced, now returned, not from the creature, but from the glowing symbols, from the very trees, from the air itself. They were a chorus of ancient voices, all chanting that one name, Ilara, Ilara, Ilara. No longer a question, but a triumphant affirmation. As the creature reached the edge of the symbols, its impossibly long skeletal hand extended, not towards me, but towards the glowing obsidian stone. Its fingers, tipped with what looked like ancient polished bone, brushed the surface. The stone pulsed violently, and a blinding flash of light erupted, engulfing everything. In that instant, I felt a tearing sensation, a ripping at the very fabric of my being, as if my essence was being pulled from my body, drawn towards the stone, towards the symbols, towards the name that was no longer just a name, but my terrifying, inescapable destiny. My own identity, my memories, my very self felt like they were dissolving, melting away, being replaced by something cold, ancient, and utterly alien. I was no longer me. I was Ilara, and the whispers celebrated my transformation. The searing light faded, leaving behind not darkness, but a new kind of sight. My old self, the one who stumbled into these woods, feels like a ghost now, a fragile memory that drifts away with each passing breeze. I am here, rooted yet free. The whispers that once chased me now flow through me, a symphony of ancient knowledge and forgotten fears. My hands, they are still my hands, yet they feel different, capable of sensing the pulse of the earth, the silent stories etched into every tree. The obsidian stone, once a terrifying altar, now hums with a familiar energy, a source of power that binds me to this place, to this purpose. Sometimes, when the moon hangs heavy and the shadows stretch long, I catch a glimpse of the person I used to be, a fleeting image in the reflection of a still pool. A stranger's face filled with a terror I no longer understand. But the name Ilara, it resonates in my very bones, a truth whispered by the wind and sung by the rustling leaves. This forest, once a nightmare, is my home, and I am its silent guardian, its voice in the deep. Be wary, wanderer, of paths untrodden, of the quiet places where the air grows heavy and the silence holds its breath. Have you ever felt a presence in the woods, a subtle calling that tugs at the edges of your mind? Perhaps a name, half heard, half dreamed, that feels strangely meant for you. Listen closely. The woods have many secrets, and some of them yearn for new company, for a new voice to join the chorus. They call, you see. They always call.